The whole world was shocked by reports that a submarine carrying 5 people had disappeared near the wreck of the Titanic. After days of searching for the submarine, heartbreaking information was received. It was expected that the crew would somehow end up inside the submersible, even though they had exhausted their oxygen supply. Contrary to expectations, the reality turned out to be different. Continue watching to the end to find out the fate of the OceanGate Submersible and whose body the divers found. Debris of a destroyed submersible was spotted for the first time after its crew, including its CEO and a millionaire aspiring to visit Mars, allegedly died en route to the Titanic wreck. Communication with the Titanic was lost after it descended. There was an emergency oxygen supply of 96 hours, none of which remained when debris was discovered. The submersible, unable to independently return, was specially designed for Titanic visits. Its operation was controlled by a modified video game controller, with communications facilitated by a particular text messaging system. Prior to departure, a final text message from a passenger indicated poor weather conditions. The US Coast Guard reportedly found human remains among the debris. Presumed human remains evidence are still being analyzed by the Marine Board of Investigation investigators from the US National Transportation Safety Board and the Transportation Safety Board of Canada, the French Marine Casualties Investigation Board, and the UK Marine Accident Investigation Branch are also working closely on the probe. During the search for the Titan, a sonar reportedly picked up banging sounds from where it's supposed to be located underneath the water. The Canadian P-3 aircraft detected underwater noises on Tuesday, June 20th. Other search teams also said that more sounds in 30-minute intervals could indicate continued hope of survivors. Thus, the search went on for a couple more days. Chris Brown, an explorer and friend of one of the missing crew, said, "If you made continuous noise, that's not going to get picked up. But doing it every 30 minutes, that suggests humans. I'm sure they're all conserving oxygen and energy, because it's cold and dark down there." But the US Coast Guard was unable to identify its source and what those sounds actually were, and so experts have come up with different theories. Carl Hartsfield, an expert from Woodhull Oceanographic Institution, told a news outlet, saying the ocean is a very complex place, obviously human sounds, nature sounds, and it's very difficult to discern what the sources of those noises are at times. While Jeff Carson, professor emeritus from Accused University, said that the noise heard may have been complicated echo coming from sounds bouncing around the Titanic debris field. He also added, "It's just not bouncing off of one thing, it's bouncing off a bunch of things. And it's like, you know, dropping a marble into a tin can, it's rattling around, and that would confuse the location." An underwater robot is now searching the seafloor for debris the implosion of the submersible may have caused, resulting in 5 crew deaths. OceanGate Expeditions was repeatedly warned of possible catastrophic safety problems on how the submersible was developed. A local deep-sea engineer from California also says Rush ignored their early warnings about the sub's unsafe materials. "We told him someone is going to be killed in this thing, and you've got to not do it." Liz Taylor, president of DOA Marine Operations, said OceanGate's CCO met with Taylor in 2015 while he was building the Titan submersible. Stockton felt like he was pushing the edge. He wanted to push the envelope, use some new materials, she said. David Lockridge, OceanGate's director of marine operations, wrote a report in 2018 that said the sub under development requires more testing and that passengers could be endangered when it reached extreme depths. According to a lawsuit filed that year in Seattle, the company sued Lockridge that year for allegedly breaching a non-disclosure agreement, but after several months the case was settled on undisclosed terms. OceanGate received another warning in 2018 from the Marine Technology Society, backing up Taylor's warnings and saying that the company should submit its prototype to tests under an expert third party before launching to ensure the safety of the passengers. But Rush declined to follow them and complained about the regulations. He said there hasn't been an injury in the commercial sub-industry in over 35 years. It's obscenely safe because they have all these regulations, but it also hasn't innovated or grown because they have all these regulations. He moved forward and used carbon fiber to build his submersible, was tragically imploded during its last dive despite the skepticism surrounding Russia's decision to continue operating the Titan as it is. David Pragg, a CBS reporter who rode on OceanGate Submersible in 2022, believes that Russia is not a con man but was passionate to what he was doing and truly believed in it. But I don't think Russia is a con man. He genuinely believed in his design enough to trust it with his own life many times over, he said. Just recently, Las Vegas billionaire real estate developer Jay Bloom revealed that Rush offered him and his son seats in the doomed Titan sub. He declined the invitation due to schedule conflict and safety concerns. Last time I saw Stockton in person was March 1st. He took me through the Titanic exhibit at Luxor, then at lunch in the Luxor food court. We talked about the dive, including safety. He was absolutely convinced that it was safer than crossing the street. He gave me a book of photos signed by him and Paul Enriquelet, 2 of the 5 on board the Submarine. Legal analysts suggest that OceanGate might evade legal liability by leveraging the same law utilized by the Titanic's owners over a century ago, the Limitation of Liability Act of 1851. Complex issues about legal jurisdiction in international waters and potential investigations add to this situation. However, if evidence of known design flaws or risks arises, the company may not avoid liability, Small Vessel Liability Act notwithstanding. The hazards were reportedly stated to all passengers beforehand. Expedition crew members aboard the doomed Titan submersible reportedly signed comprehensive waivers, acknowledging risk of injury or death. Despite these waivers, families of the victims are expected to seek damages against the company. Liability may largely depend on the waiver's contents, but given the experimental nature of the trip, the waivers may be upheld in US courts. The course of the investigation is yet to be determined.